One and only Ewan Yongi. Let me hear you. Yes.
Hey, what's up, you guys?
Hey.
Yeah, I was when I first moved to Las Vegas, I was living in this house. I had a bunch of roommates, and one of them was this Japanese guy. Right, he didn't really talk to anybody, but he'd feed all these pigeons and stuff. And he'd been there for a couple of years, So when I show up, all these pigeons started swarming me and stuff. I was like, "What the hell? Get away from me, damn racist-ass pigeons!" And one of my buddies, he's a white dude, but he's like really white, like too, I think he's like part albino or something. Yeah, he's so white when he comes to my house, all my plants start growing in his direction. And whenever I have sex, like, I try to hold out as long as I can, but it's never as long as I want to, right? I'm like, "Come on, penis, you can hang in there, right?" And he's always just like, "Screw this." Yeah, I just go to water parks every summer, But then one summer I had a kind of a traumatic experience. Yeah, I was 16, right? And I was at Raging Waters, and I was waiting in line on the staircase, And then I look up, and then the girl next to me, like, she about the same age as me, but her boobs are, like, right in my face, And I was like, whoa, and it was kind of, like, windy and cold, so, like, her nipples were popping out. I was like, oh, no. So I, like, turned over here, but then this girl over here, her face is, like, right in my junk,
Oh, my God.
I'm already got, like, a partial woody, right? And then she yawns, Now, it was like, bing, I was like, oh, no, I gotta get out of here, So I just, like, ran past everyone to the slide. And it must be a common occurrence at Raging Waters, right? Because the lifeguard was like, come on, just go, And so I jumped on the slide, I got out of there. I was like, man, they really need to change the name of this place. They should call it Raging Boners.
Oh.
Why didn't the oyster share his food?
What?
He's shellfish. Alright, there's a sailor, right? And he gets hired on this new boat. And they're out for like 6 months, right? And then he starts getting horny, So he tells his buddies, like, when are we going back to port? I'm getting horny over here. He's like, oh, no, we're not going back to port for another 6 months. It's like, I can't wait that long, It's like, well, have you tried the barrel? It's like, no, what's that? So he takes him to this room. There's a barrel there with a little hole in it. And he's like, well, there you go. So, like, he, like, fucks the barrel, right? And it works really well, And so he's talking to his buddies, like, yeah, that barrel was awesome, I'm going to use it every day. It's like, well, every day but Sunday, right? It's like, well, you can't use it on Sunday? He's like, oh, yeah, you can, but Sunday's your day in the barrel. So. What do you call a guy that can make a business suit real fast? Taylor Swift. I think Pride Month needs a mascot. And I got the perfect one. The flamingo. Right? They got pink feathers. They love to dance, And they're like a non-predatory, peaceful type of bird, right? They only eat brine shrimp and algae. Nobody gives a damn about brine shrimp.
Sea monkeys.
Yeah, and sea monkeys. And you know what a group of flamingos is called? They're not called a flock. No, they're called a flamboyance.
Hey.
How good is that, right? It's like all the best part of Pride Month, all wrapped up into one animal. Even the name flamingo is Flaming O. Flaming O, right? That's a burning butthole. And normally when a guy like brags about how big his dick is, it's usually the opposite, right? Usually he got a little tiny dick, Yeah, I was talking to this guy today. He's like, "Oh yeah, man, my dick's so huge, I'm hung like a horse." I was like, "Yeah, like a seahorse." Yeah, I was in the United States Army, 1st Cavalry Division, Fort Hood. It was pretty cool, It was weird being the only Asian guy, though. Yeah, every day people just looking at me like, are we supposed to shoot this guy? It's cool being in the Army, You got some good benefits, right? I'd say the best benefit was the ability to give old men hard-ons. Yeah, old men, they love hearing Army stories. I guess because it makes them feel younger or gives them hope for the future or something, but like if I meet some old man in a park and I start telling them Army stories, I'm telling you, he'll start coming all over me. I'll tell you an Army story right now, right? Is the day that I in process into the Army. Alright, so my recruiter, he picks me up and he takes me over to the Bonaventure Hotel right there in downtown LA. He's like, you see that line of people? Go get in that line and sign in. They'll tell you what to do. So I do that and they give me a room key. And they're like, you better go to sleep early because we're going to wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, 3 in the morning, right? I'm 18 years old. I've never woken up that early for anything. So I'm like, all right. So I go to sleep, and sure enough, 3 o'clock, the phone rings, right? I'm like, hello? They're like, get up, go downstairs, get in this bus. So I do that. They take us to some base like in Long Beach. And the first thing they do is they break us up into our branches, right? Army here, Navy here, Air Force. And then the first thing that everyone notices is that all the pretty girls are in the Air Force, you know? And so I was in the Army, so I was like, fuck! Anyway, the first thing, they give us this crazy test. It's like the SAT on steroids and shit. And so those who pass, they break us up in these little groups. And so for me, they're like, all right, you go into this little room. So I open the door and I'm like, whoa, what the hell? It's just a bunch of dudes all lined up, and they're all like in their underwear, and they're like doing jumping jacks and like windmills and all these things, right? And they're like, all right, get in there, you know? I'm like, what? You know, I'm like, oh, I guess. No, hurry up, get in here, close the door, you know? Take off your clothes and stuff. I'm like, okay. You know, it's just so uncomfortable. I've never done anything like this. And so what it is there's a sergeant in the front, and he's telling everyone, okay, now do windmills. Okay, now do jumping jacks, you know? And these two other sergeants are walking up and down the lines. They're looking at everyone like hawks and stuff. And then one of those sergeants, he yells to the guy next to me. He's like, you, do that windmill again. And he tries, but he can't get his arm all the way up, you know? And so he's like, you're out, get out. And that was it. That's how fast it was, you know, for someone to get out. And that was just the beginning, right? It was like we had vision tests and hearing and like height and weight. And they were just cutting people left and right, you know? Every station's like, get out, get out, get out, right? And at this one point, there was this big old Mexican dude. And he's all tatted down and stuff. And he's talking about how his dad was a Marine and, you know, all his uncles were Marines, you know. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be the best Marine in the world. And all of a sudden this guy comes out, he's like, you're out. And he's like, what? He's like, why? He's like, your neck is too thick, you know. It measured too thick. And that was it. He couldn't be a Marine. He almost started crying right then and there in front of everyone. You know, and then like, yeah, just one test after another. And finally, after about 5 o'clock, you know, I finished the last test. And then they're like, all right, you know, the sergeant's like, congratulations, son, you know, you made it to the United States Army. And I was like, thank you, Sergeant, you know. And I remember I was just so happy and just so proud, you know. But then the whole time I was in the Army, I couldn't wait to get out of that motherfucker. And I'll tell you another story. You know, when I was in 8th grade, the very first day of 8th grade, there was this huge fight, which I didn't see, but everyone told me about it. It involved this 7th grader, this little Vietnamese 7th grader named Viet, which nobody knew who this kid was. And then the 8th grader was Chago, right? Everyone knew who Chago was. He was like this gangster kid, right? He had like a shaved head, you know, and the rumor was that his older brother was like this gang leader. And so anyway, I was scared to death of Chago, right? Like all 7th grade, I totally avoided this guy. Anyway, it's the first day of 8th grade, you know. He's about to fight Viet, whoever this kid is. Anyway, the very first thing Viet does, like, he gets into this weird kung fu stance, right? He's like this, like... And, like, everyone starts laughing, you know, because they think he's fucking around or something. And then Chago's like, all right, whatever, you know. And Viet just starts kicking him and punching him, right? And then he's like, whoa, and he starts winning, you know. And then Chago's got these two buddies, right? So they're like, fuck this, and they jump in and whatever. But Viet starts fighting him off, you know, and he starts winning, right? And, like, everyone told me it looked like they were moving in slow motion, the other two guys. And Viet's just like, oh, boom, 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 right? And then, whatever. So Chago's like, fuck this. And he goes into his backpack and he gets these two sharpened pencils, you know. He's like, I'm gonna fucking stab you, right? And then Viet, he just starts kicking at the pencils, right? And he breaks them. He breaks both of them. And then he just starts kicking at everyone, like, ah, you know. And then they're like, oh, crap. And then they all just run away and stuff. And everyone's just like, whoa, you know, and they're all applauding and stuff. I saw one of those guys the next morning. He was, like, limping. Yeah, and then, like, after that, everyone in my school took martial arts, you know. And after that, everyone stopped using pencils. How much time is that? Is that pretty much it?
Wrap.
Okay. All right, my name's Iwan. Thank you. I'm out of here.
Woo! Where do we find you? You said don't ever throw away your audience like that. People enjoyed you. Say where they can find you and speak and say your name clearly.
Oh, I'm Iwan Ung. You can find me on Iwan Ung on Instagram, YouTube, and, yeah.
Iwan Ung.
Yeah, Iwan Ung. Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to say that.
Yeah, I should be more.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why you're here.
Woo!
For me and Matthew.
Yeah. Oh,
I
man.
hope you had fun.
Thanks.
Don't worry, your dog is fine. It's funny. People care about their animals.